Africa-wide summit called Innovation Africa Digital Summit 2019. And I have here with me a CEO of Etisalat, a telco company based in Abu Dhabi, Hatem Dowidar. Thank you so much to be here to exchange some few words.
Thank you very much for hosting.
Absolutely. So tell me, what's the Etisalat?
Well, Etisalat is the biggest Middle East and North Africa operator. We operate in 16 countries in the Middle East, in North Africa, but also in West Africa. And we have been looking at the Ethiopian market for a long time. And as we're hearing now that there's more liberalization coming to the market, we are very interested to be part of that story and see what happens.
Absolutely. So what is your experience in the emerging market like Ethiopia, where infrastructure is kind of the weakest link? So what are you going to bring, the new value proposition that you're bringing here in the telecom infrastructure sector?
Actually, the new technologies that are coming now are really bridging the divide between fixed communication and mobile communication. Because in the past, we used to say that you provide broadband through fixed, and then you can provide some data services through mobile. But what we have seen now with 4G and now 5G to come, we are able to provide full broadband experience using wireless technology that is sometimes as good, if not better, than the fixed technology. So especially for emerging markets like Ethiopia, it means you can roll out very fast to a big portion of the population, world-class, fast connectivity that allows them to be part of the global community, to do more, be involved in e-commerce nationally and internationally, to be part of a whole national and global digital community that is connected throughout the world.
Okay, so what kind of unique technology implementation are you planning to deploy in Ethiopia? Can you explain a little bit about your technology?
I think if we end up being part of the story here, we are leading in both the 4G and 5G technology. We implemented the first 4G technology in MENA. Also 5G, we already are commercial with 5G in the home market in United Arab Emirates, and we're testing in 3-4 other markets. So we're one of the pioneers, not only in the region, but in the world in terms of these technologies. We have a lot of engineering experience on how to implement these technologies, both in developed markets, but also in emerging markets. We have done a very successful 4G implementation in Egypt, and the tests say that we have the fastest network on 4G there. We have done so as well in Morocco and in a few markets in West Africa where we have implemented 4G technology very successfully. So we now have the know-how, the expertise, and the relationship with all the manufacturers of the different components of these networks to be able to put together very fast, a very efficient network.
Okay, sure. So Ethiopia has a different landscape and demographics. We're going to get to that next. But have you done, what kind of market research have you done to adapt to this landscape? Because, and also kind of benchmarking question along with this is that, have you supported or provided a service to kind of similar landscape like Ethiopia in any other emerging market? I know you mentioned Egypt and Morocco, but I would put them in a different segment, yeah.
Even if we look at the Middle East, so we have mountainous, so for example, if you're referring to mountainous terrain, we have mountainous terrain in the Middle East. In West Africa, in a couple of the markets, not as sophisticated as the terrain here. But with the technologies we have also a lot of renewable energy sources. So for example, we can put a cell site on a side of a mountain, doesn't need to have a cable going there, and we can backhaul, for example, through satellite. And we have partnership with the satellite providers where in areas where we cannot put a cable, where we cannot get a line of sight to make a microwave link between the site and the next site or the next base, we can use also satellite for backhaul, and we have used that in a number of our markets, and it works very well.
Actually, that was going to be my next question, because the thing that I was mentioning about the Ethiopia being a different landscape is, I'm sure you know about the demographics, and about 80% of the population lives in a completely off-grid area of the country. So I know you mentioned satellite and whatnot, but biggest concern here is last mile services, right? So how are you planning to address that?
From power grid, we are using a number of sources, from using the sun to using also wind power in some of our sites. The technology now is helping us because the consumption of the sites are much less than it used to be 10 years ago. So we are able, with a few panels that we even attached to the tower for safety, that to provide enough power for the site. Also, we are using different technologies in hub sites. For example, we use fuel cells where we can replenish them every few days. So we would have cars that go with routes and replenish these special batteries in cell sites where you cannot put a windmill or put solar panels. So there is always a technological solution to power. Power is not the big issue that used to be a few years back, because now with the battery technologies, we can have battery grids that last a site for several days until we can replenish them again. So this sometimes has a bit of additional cost, but is fully doable and is something that we have done in other markets.
Absolutely. So when do you envision, I know things are moving fast here, and then the liberalization aspect of it is coming to fruition now. And from idea, I know you guys are ready, if the opportunity is presenting itself, from idea to implementation, when do you expect this full-scale service, including the off-grid coverage and everything? What is your timeline to have full service?
Look, in markets where we have entered as greenfields, we have been able to get from the point of having the license until we cover a good portion, because again, you roll out the coverage gradually. But until you get the main cities and towns, for example, you can have that full service in less than a year from the time you take the license. So from, saying go until you're covering all the, let's say, the cities and the towns, you can get that fast within a year. And then over 2, maximum 3 years, you're then able to cover all the smaller communities as well. Okay. So this is one of the scenarios. Another scenario, maybe there would be some cooperation where we work also with Ethiotel, and then we are able to bring to them a lot of the technology expertise that we have done in other markets to be able to also upgrade the capability and bring it there. So in the market in Ethiopia, we are still looking at all options, because it seems all options are on the table. So one option is definitely issuing new licenses, but another option would be maybe liberalization or part privatization of Ethiotel, and we'd also be interested to look at that.
Awesome. So we kind of talked about opportunities so far. What kind of challenge do you expect in this new market, and what is your plan to kind of mitigate those potential challenges?
I think what's very important to have in any market is the proper regulatory framework. So as we go into the market, it's very important to have enough spectrum. For example, if we're having a new license, is to have enough spectrum to be able to provide these services. So for example, as you know, 4G and 5G requires a lot of spectrum. Spectrum is to mobile operators what land is to farmers. You cannot farm if you don't have land. You can, do with lots of other things missing, but not with the land. Same thing, spectrum for us is what we use to connect all these devices, connect our towers together. So it's very important that the new regulator, which actually the minister announced this morning that the regulator is going to be appointed soon, that new regulator puts a framework to have enough spectrum for the different players in the market. So this is one. Another thing is also more organizing investments, how it comes, how can we bring the money, expertise to invest in the infrastructure, make sure that the local municipalities, for example, allow us in areas where we need to put fiber, for example, allow us to an easy and seamless process to be able to lay the foundation and put these things very fast, because we have seen in some markets where it's made very easy and we can get the coverage and get going very fast, and in some other markets where the process becomes tedious and very bureaucratic, to be able to do something very simple takes a long time. And I'm hoping, and from what we are seeing, the energy in Ethiopia is going to be one of those countries that streamline the processes and make things very fast.
Let me ask you this straight up question. What's your pledge to bring affordable pricing? And the reason why I say that, connectivity is one piece, right? And the next key question is affordability. Because Ethiopia right now, as we speak, is one of the most expensive broadband user country in the world, in Africa. Because as an individual, basis, the money that people pay to be connected is very expensive. So for individuals like me, the value add is, can I have an affordable connection? So what kind of pricing model, what kind of, affordable pricing are you going to bring with your service?
I can tell you that today, in multiple markets, we provide less than $1 per gigabyte of data, which I think would be very affordable in Ethiopia with today's measures. So this is something that we do, not on one market, but we do, for example, another market with a big population and similar, maybe economic, and actually similar terrain to Ethiopia is Pakistan, where it's one of the most mountainous, and this is one of the countries where we operate, and has a very mountainous and very difficult to cover terrain. And we do the same process mixture between microwave links and satellite backhaul and so on, and we cover a huge portion of the population there, and the cost per gigabyte is less than $1. And that includes a lot of even minutes. So this is not only data. Okay. It gives you data and minutes as well.
Well, people will remember this conversation. Once you start operating, your pricing, they're going to hold you accountable for your word.
Let's say, I cannot promise it will be day one, but it will get there very fast.
Okay, so one last question, right? I mean, Ethiopia, even 4G coverage is very minimal in the capital city, and it barely doesn't exist in any other part of the country. So how fast are you going to bring fastest connection? We're talking about 5G, right? I covered 5G so many times from my shows, and where I live, it's getting implemented. When are you going to bring at least 4G wider coverage in Ethiopia?
4G,
the next question, yeah, the next.
4G very, very fast.
Yeah, and then when do you think 5G is going to be coming to Africa, and particularly in Ethiopia?
Look, 5G, we can bring it. When we bring 4G, we can bring 5G to some areas. The problem with 5G today are the devices. Yes. Because today you can get a 4G device, maybe not like what was said today with $20, but maybe with $40, $35, you can get a nice 4G device, a smartphone. Today, 5G devices that are available in the market are still more in the $500 plus. Yes. So that makes it very unaffordable for lots of people.
User device is the challenge, or even the 5G infrastructure itself is a challenge, right?
No, actually the end user will be device is the challenge. Why? Because especially if we're putting a new network, the technology is already existing from a hardware perspective. All you need to do is you put a different antenna and you activate the software to allow 5G. But most of the new base stations that we're using are 5G capable. So upgrading the infrastructure to 5G, at least in the cities. So definitely in the cities, we will put infrastructure that would be very easy to upgrade to 5G. But I think 5G, big obstacle, actually two obstacles. One is the device, the consumer device. The second one is to be able to provide 5G service, you need the fiber going directly to every base station. Because as you know, 5G is providing a huge bandwidth. In the UAE, the commercial service we have today provides per subscriber 1 gigabit of speed. Yeah, okay? So you get gigabit internet on your handset, on your mobile. So to be able to, and to be able to provide that, you need the site to be linked directly to fiber. So digging is much more time consuming than building towers. So while we can do 4G, we can do one, sometimes two hops using microwave and wireless technology until we get to a fiber. With 5G technology, we need to reach directly to the site with a fiber, and that takes a bit of time.
That's what I was going to mention, because earlier when you say an end-user device, I wanted you to talk about that one too.
Yeah, so that is definitely the second obstacle. So it is there, we recognize it. In the big cities, it's easier to do fiber because, again, the grid is there. There is a map normally of different ducts and so on where you can put it. To run the fiber over to towns and villages takes a lot more time.
Yeah. All right. Good luck, Hatem, and
thank you very much.
All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.